This is Book Tours, and I'm Corrine Edwards. I'd like you to meet one of the most important new messengers in publishing today. Important because the authors on this show are dedicated to helping your personal growth, make you happier, healthier, to be the best you can be. Wisdom Television is delighted to welcome David Samuel, author of Practical Mysticism. Can you be a spiritual person and be a self-made millionaire too? David Samuel says it can be done. In his book, Practical Mysticism, here is a man who did it. He came from nothing, a poor boy, to becoming a multimillionaire by the age of 25. David, we all want to be multimillionaires. How did you do this?
Well, my original vision of what I wanted to do in life was to help as many people as I can end the suffering that normal life is. I saw my parents and people always struggling, and I realized that I understood life didn't have to be that filled with suffering, but nobody would listen to me because I was a poor boy. They said, well, what do you know? So the one way to get their respect was to have the money to establish that I do know how to meld the two worlds of the spiritual and the material. And then as well, the main goal of having wealth, as I've said in one of the poems I've written in my book, is to have as much as you can for the sole purpose of having that much more to give. And so that was the main reason, so that I could retire and spend my entire life devoted to helping as many people as I can, especially the people that could not afford to it. As one of my businesses was business consulting, restructuring companies that were going bankrupt. And I would always work for small family-owned companies that the people could not afford to pay for the help as they were going bankrupt. So I could afford to work for them for free. And that not only saves a company, but it saves a family.
You know, you said something interesting. You said you had to prove to your parents.
Well, you must establish credibility. People say, what do you know about business, or what do you know about anything if you've never done it? You don't understand what the challenges in life are. And so I began from a poor person, making my way financially, but at the whole time doing it through using the practices of spiritual teachings, to which I've also been studying for over 25 years.
But how can you be spiritual? I mean, they say, aren't spiritual people supposed to give everything away? Aren't spiritual people supposed to be meditating all the time? Aren't spiritual people should be looking at the larger picture and not be concerned with the mundane task of making a lot of money?
Well, we are both spiritual and mortal. We're mortal and immortal. Our soul is immortal, our body is mortal. We must tend to all aspects. In the deeper levels of mysticism, you'll find in the Sufi path or the Kabbalah or some of the Hindu teaching, Ramakrishna, all tell us that we must have all of the normal things of life. Money, job, family, all of these things to satisfy the mortal aspect. If there was no need for that, why be born mortal? It is said that God made humans superior to the angels because an angel is purely immortal, whereas a human is mortal and immortal. And so if it was not to experience this world of love and companionship and financial gains for the purpose of benefiting others, then there'd be no point. And all this meditation and mysticism, that's very different than dogmatic religion. In my path, there is no reference to God as such, as their one supreme being sitting on a throne saying good or bad. All exercises of meditations and practices strengthen your mind. That's what meditation is about, focusing and strengthening your mind. So what I've done is I have found ways where you can meditate effectively while you're driving to work, while you are working, while you're washing the dishes, doing the laundry. Let's say driving to work. Try one day from leaving your home till you arrive at your destination to pay complete attention to every detail that you notice, rather than just arriving and say, oh, I'm here. How did I get here?
And lots of times we forget where we've been when we're driving.
Exactly.
We go into a trance state.
Exactly. That's called sleep, being asleep. You think you're awake, but you're actually asleep. This is a process of awakening. And actually the Buddha, the word Buddha means the awakened one.
You know, you say, and this kind of follows what you're just mentioning here, you say that one of the reasons that people do not become successful is they do not focus their energy.
Mm-hmm. It's extremely important to focus your energy, which is your mind, your thought. And that's the same purpose of what meditation is. It's focused thought. That's what it is. Now, if you're very focused, it's extremely hard to get knocked off track. But if you cannot focus on your goal, then as soon as any tiny little thing comes in your way, it distracts you. It takes you off your goal. And it's sort of like saying, I wish to go from here to across the street. But every time you take a step, somebody gets your attention. You turn around, and then you turn the other way, and then you turn the other way. And before you know it, you're turning in circles in the middle of the road and get hit by a car. You never make it to your destination.
You say that people do not focus on one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm. It's very important to pick a particular subject or a task at hand. Let's say in your work, you have a certain job to take care of. You must focus and finish that job, assuming it's a small project that can be done in a short time. Get that done, then go to the next. Get that done, then go to the next. If you're constantly jumping from one task to the other, you end up with a huge pile of work on your desk of unfinished tasks. When that happens, your subconscious mind looks at this pile and gets overwhelmed by the size of the pile. Whereas if you, and that's all the unfinished work, whereas if you take one thing, focus on that and complete it, you never notice this overwhelming pile that intimidates you. You just say, this is what's in front of me, and I must do what is in front of me, get it done for doing the best job that I can, and then let it go. And if you do that and be more efficient with every little task, you'll find that everything gets done much quicker.
Is that how you became a millionaire at 25?
I had several different jobs, but when I would do one, I would always focus on the one I was doing. For instance, my first business was as a freelance photographer. Now, when I was at a party taking pictures, I was thinking of taking the pictures. I was focused on the subject. I was focused on the party. I was not thinking about my other job working in a factory. I was also working in the daytime in a clothing factory. I was not thinking of the other part-time job I had during the days on the weekend working in a Hallmark store. Of course, you know, what can a 13-year-old get? So I would stay with what I was doing. You know, in taking the store, the little store that I was working at, if I did not concentrate on, let's say, putting the items on the shelf, stocking the shelves, and I was looking over my shoulder, I'd knock things over. And then as I knock them over, it takes more time to clean up the mess I made. So I'm not getting things done as efficiently as possible. But if I would just watch my hand, watch my movements, as I did my job in front of me, it would get done quicker and efficient, and I wouldn't waste time correcting errors that I would have made had I not been focused on what was in front of me.
How important is your intention?
Intention is basically your heading. If, let's say, you're trying to fly an airplane and you do not have a set heading point, a specific destination, you'll fly around and you'll keep flying in circles till you run out of fuel and crash and die. If you have a set heading point, that is what will take you to your most efficient path of reaching your destination. And so without an intention, a clear, precise goal of what you wish to achieve, it will take you an immense amount of time. The Sufis say that without a guide, it takes you 200 years to travel a 2-day journey. And the guide can be either a teacher leading you, or it can be you yourself guiding. But you must have a fixed destination, whether it is the amount of money you want to make, the particular job you want to have, when you'd like to finish building your house, or whatever it may be.
All right, you want to pay off your mortgage,
Mm-hmm.
but you really don't have enough money to make a substantial amount of prepayment on your mortgage. How do you have to have a plan, or is it enough to know the goal is to pay off your mortgage?
You must have your goal, but you must also have a plan. The problem with many people's plans is that they deal purely on the surface. Right? You might have the goal of paying off your mortgage at a certain date, perhaps earlier than the normal time. Mm-hmm. But that is merely the goal. If you do not determine a path and a plan of achieving it, you will never achieve it. So not only must you have a clear intention, a fixed destination, and a fixed time, which is very important because that gives your subconscious a realization of, I have this deadline, I'd better get a move on. But also you must have a clear plan, a step-by-step practical method by which you will achieve your goal. If you do not have this, you won't know what route to take. It's like being presented with 5 paths that all lead up the mountain, but you don't know which one is the straight path, which one is the windy path. So you must know which path it is and select the right one.
Well, I guess that is a goal in itself, finding the correct path, isn't it?
Indeed.
We're talking to David Samuel here about his fascinating book, Practical Mysticism. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're talking to David Samuel about his book, Practical Mysticism, and we're talking about paying off your mortgage right now. All right, so the goal is to pay off your mortgage. But now you're not making enough money to pay off your mortgage. You're just barely making the payments. Now, is the secondary goal to get the money then?
That would be a secondary, but then again, we have to look yet one step further. How are you going to get the money? And the basis of getting wealthy is not just get a job, earn more, accumulate more money. The reason that I was successful is that the goal or the fixed amount of money was merely the goal, but the purpose. Why did I want that money? Why do you want to pay off your mortgage?
Security.
Early? If it is security, then you say, why do I want security? So nobody else can take it from me. I can provide a home for my family.
Or for myself when I get old.
Exactly. Now, what you do is you find that ultimate goal. And then that image, which is usually spurred by love of either yourself or your family, that becomes your path. That is the, let's say, interim guiding light, which is taking you to the final goal. In all our jobs, in everything we do, if you take merely the job and earning the money as your goal, it's very empty. And I believe that's what causes a lot of dissatisfaction. But if we can do all of these things that are mundane within the normal life, and always have in our mind the image of the reason we are doing it, which is to provide a good home for our spouse or for our children, send them to college, the love of the person that you are doing this for becomes your driving force. That love then, when it fills your entire day, makes whatever you are doing pleasant, because it is no longer what you are doing. It is why you are doing it. It is for the love of that person. And so that brings us to another level, which is like a seed, has the husk, the outer shell. But the husk is not really what gives us the fruit or the plant. It is the seed within. And so in order to achieve success, we must forget about, or not entirely forget, but put that as secondary, our outward actions, our outward appearance, what we're actually doing. But to remember that it is the core of our being, which is what is important. And so that is where I draw from mysticism. We take the practices to basically develop the quality of your inner being, to become the best person you can possibly be. And by doing that, you make yourself an extremely valuable commodity. So it helps you in two ways. First, you have inner peace because you are filled with the love of the reason that you are doing what you do in this mundane world.
So the love could be of yourself.
It could be. And why do you love yourself? Not narcissistic, I assume, but to become the best you can be so that you can be a shining light to others. And so that love makes whatever task pleasant, because our world is somewhat mundane in most of our tasks, but it becomes pleasant because of the goal. And the second thing is, you become such a high-quality, responsible, reliable, efficient person that that is an extremely rare thing to find in our modern world. And so you will place yourself far above other employees, other people in the company, and you will find yourself raising and raising. And in my case, when I was about 17, I worked in a sewing machine importing company, and I couldn't tell you, at least once a week, one of our clients would always offer me a partnership. It was amazing.
17 years old.
I was 17 years old, and they said, I've never seen a young man with so much energy who's just, you work so well. You know, and you fix the problems. You don't avoid the problems. You don't blame anyone else.
You do what's in front of you.
Exactly.
You know, one of the things that you say here that is kind of startling, because you're a very spiritual person, you say, get out of your life anybody who's negative.
That's right.
I mean, that's not very kind, is it?
Well, we don't have to shoot them. You don't have to be mean to the person.
Just get rid of them, you say.
Well, that's right. By your not spending time there, right? You don't have to say to this person, I don't like you, get away from me. No, that's rude. That's not polite. But you can merely not put yourself in the position where you would spend your time with that person. See, in business, it is not increasing your sales that will make you more money in the end of the year, because as you increase your sales, you might increase your expenses. It is in cutting down on your expenses more importantly than increasing your sales. Both combined
You
will
better
really
say
be
that
successful.
again.
Right.
That's not only in business, that's in success in life, isn't it?
Exactly.
Because most of us, if we make more money, we then put the extra car on. We take the extra vacation.
So in spending less, you can accumulate more of a nest egg. Eventually, your nest egg is large enough that you can invest it in a property or in some other venture, perhaps your own business, where you can start to earn money from your money. That will eventually lead you to retirement because your money will be working for you. When it comes to the idea of the negative people that you were speaking of, it's the same thing with our personal energy. At the end of the day, are you feeling, oh, I'm so drained, oh, I can't take it, I just got to go to sleep? You've wasted so much energy on negative people, on doing things just to please people that you really don't care about. And so we must not only eliminate our financial burden of extra expenses that are unnecessary, we must also eliminate our energy waste, all right? And so not to allow our energy to be spent in a negative source, a draining source, something that is not beneficial to you, so that you have more energy to devote to yourself, to your family, to those things you enjoy, or to your spiritual growth.
You have a whole group of things that you say. You say that you have to write down what your goal is, and then you have to say it out loud.
Exactly.
Now, I've heard of writing it down before, but what is the benefit of saying it out loud?
You can test this. All the practices, I believe, must be tested and proven. If you read a book, let's say, completely silently, read a page, then try and remember what you read. Now, read another page audibly, out loud, and see how much better you remember it. Part of the practical aspects of our path is we use the mechanical functions of the mind and the human psyche. And one fact is that when you hear something audibly, it registers in your mind far, far greater and stronger than if you just were reading it to your mind in silence. Because when we're silently repeating, it's easy to drift off and not notice. So you might think...
But when you think it and hear it, they say that's a good way for children to remember things, too, is to not just read the book, but read it to them.
Exactly, because audibly, it registers, it takes root in your mind, much better than if you just read it silently to yourself. It's sort of like doing something where no one's watching you. No one can tell if you're cheating. But if somebody's watching you, then you have to do a good job. When you read silently to yourself, it is possible for your mind to drift off between words, whereas if you're reading it audibly, it is as if you are being watched, and it registers.
So you put it out there and you say, I am going to pay off my mortgage by such and such a time. And you just let that, and do you allow your subconscious mind to show you the way to do it?
If you do not have a fixed path, yes, you can eventually find a path. Some ideas will come, opportunities will come to you. Most of my business ventures that I've done in the last few years since I've come out of retirement have come to me. I have not gone to find them. I've been retired for the last 10 years, and people come to me with ideas. And it's the same with achieving your goal. You say, I will pay off my mortgage by this date. I will pay it off by making my money doing whatever the process is going to be that you will earn your money. The reason I want to pay off my mortgage is because I wish to be free from the financial burdens of that monthly payment and have the security of my home to provide for my old age, for my children. So you see, the statement must encompass all aspects of your goal. So you
write not only the affirmation, but also the underlying reasons.
Yes.
And you say those out loud too.
Yes, until it becomes memorized and a part of your mind. So instead of when your mind is quiet, you start repeating that song you last heard on the radio, but yet you're repeating this statement. So it becomes a complete part of your being at all times.
What about sharing your dreams with other people?
That I follow the Sufi path, which is you should not. You should only tell it to one person who you respect to interpret your dreams. If you say things too much, there comes to be a, let's say, obligation, a fear that if I don't succeed, I'll look like a fool. That pressure and subconscious fear can inhibit you from actually achieving your goal.
And people, because of their own fear, are liable to shoot you down too.
Exactly. Their jealousy, or who knows what it may be.
Or they're afraid for you.
That could be. You know, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And so it's very important to just do your work. And that's one of the things I say when I teach my students. You never go out and preach. You never go out and tell anybody what you're doing. If anyone asks you, what are you doing when you're doing a certain practice, just say, oh, it's a little medicine I do, a little exercise I do. But your inner work is inside. If you keep opening and talking, it becomes the ego trying to say, look at me, which is a compensation for low self-esteem, which is the cause of why we don't have the inner strength to achieve our goal. Everything begins with developing the inside feeling, your feelings about yourself. And so we must be careful not to put out any opportunity for us to become embarrassed or for people to attack us. But then once you've achieved it, then you can just see what you've done.
If you could pick one thing of this whole book that would be the most helpful information you could give to any person who wants to be a millionaire and wants to do good, what would it be?
Okay. You must find the reason for your goal, the reason for your desire to become a millionaire, what you want to do with the money, and always remember that goal. Be careful not to get addicted to money and power, because that's the worst drug of all. It's the one drug you become addicted to, and everybody keeps telling you to take more and more. And so always remember the ultimate goal of the reason you want wealth, and to remember this little story about Alexander the Great. He had conquered the world by the time he was 32 years old, and he was dying. And he knew he was dying, and his doctors couldn't help him. So he gave instructions. He said, when I die and you carry my body in the procession, leave my hands outside the coffin. When you bury me, leave my hands out of the ground and write on the stone, here lies Alexander the Great, world conqueror, born with nothing, died with nothing. And so remember that. All the wealth you accumulate is only to do good, not for you to take with you, which you can't do anyway.
Well, that certainly is good advice, not to know you can take it with you. You say, believe that you can have it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a small word.
Well, it's a small word, but very difficult to do. You must have complete faith in achieving your goal. You know that you will achieve it. Part of it is that if you do not achieve it, you do not beat yourself up about it.
And if you haven't told anybody about it, no one's going to say,
exactly.
Dopey, you didn't do it.
That's right. But your confidence in yourself is going to be very relative to the amount that you will succeed.
That is wonderful. Well, we've been having a wonderful time here talking to this certainly very sincere self-made millionaire. David Samuel, Practical Mysticism. We bring you the most important new authors on this show. The most important new authors in publishing today, and they are authors who care about you. So keep coming back.